In 1878, the government of Victoria made a decision that changed Ned Kelly's fate forever. They didn't issue a warrant. They didn't ask for his surrender. They didn't promise him a trial. They declared him an outlaw. And in 1800s Australia, that meant something far worse than being wanted. It meant he was no longer protected by the law. It meant any person could shoot him on sight. It meant his death would be legal. And once that line was crossed, there was no way back. What outlaw really meant. Today, the word outlaw sounds almost romantic. A rebel, a criminal, a fugitive. But in the 19th century, being declared an outlaw was something else entirely. It was a legal death sentence. Under the Felons Apprehension Act, passed in colonial Victoria, a person declared an outlaw could be killed by anyone at any time, without warning. No arrest was required. No trial was expected. No accountability followed. If an outlaw was shot, the shooter faced no punishment. The law did not simply fail to protect the outlaw. It encouraged their death. This power was rarely used. And when it was, it sent a message to everyone watching. Why the law existed. Colonial Australia was built on fear. Fear of rebellion. Fear of escaped convicts. Fear of the vast, lawless bush. Police forces were small. Settlements were scattered. Communication was slow. The outlaw law existed as a last resort, meant for men considered too dangerous to capture alive. It was designed to crush resistance quickly, and once used, it turned the target into a symbol. A warning. Stringy Bark Creek. The moment that pushed authorities to use this power came in October of 1878. 4 police officers were sent into the bush to capture Ned Kelly and his associates. They camped at a place called Stringy Bark Creek. What followed was chaotic and deadly. When the confrontation ended, 3 police officers were dead. Only 1 survived. For the colonial government, this was no longer about theft or defiance. Police had been killed. Public pressure exploded. The government needed to respond with force. The declaration. Ned Kelly, along with Dan Kelly, Joe Byrne, and Steve Hart, were officially declared outlaws. Not suspects, not fugitives, outlaws. Posters were printed and distributed across the colony. The message was clear. If you see them, you are permitted to kill them. No questions asked. A massive reward was offered for their capture or death, dead or alive. The manhunt begins. Once the outlaw declaration was issued, the hunt intensified immediately. Police patrols doubled. Bush camps were searched. Homes suspected of sheltering the gang were raided. Anyone connected to the Kelly family was questioned, harassed, threatened. The law didn't just target Ned Kelly. It targeted his entire world. What it did to the public, the government expected fear. What it got was something more complicated. Among the wealthy and the authorities, the declaration was welcomed. They wanted order restored. But among working-class Australians, especially Irish Catholics, the reaction was different. Many saw the outlaw law as proof that the system was stacked against them, that the law protected property and power, not people. Declaring Ned Kelly an outlaw didn't erase him. It amplified him. Life as a legal target. From that moment on, Ned Kelly could never surrender safely. If he walked into a town unarmed, he could still be shot. If he raised his hands, he could still be killed. The law offered him no path back, only an ending. Every encounter became life or death. Every shadow carried risk. And yet, he did not disappear. The effect on Ned Kelly. The outlaw declaration hardened Ned Kelly completely. Any remaining belief in fairness was gone. If the law had already sentenced him to death, then survival became resistance, and resistance became identity. He was no longer simply running. He was standing against the system that had condemned him. The manhunt escalates. Police resources poured into the hunt. Large search parties were formed. Informants were pressured. Rewards increased. The bush was scoured repeatedly. Yet the Kelly gang remained free. Not because they were invisible, but because they were protected. The network. Contrary to official narratives, Ned Kelly did not survive alone. He was supported by a loose network of sympathizers, farmers, workers, families who shared his resentment of police harassment. Food appeared, warnings were given, shelter was found. The outlaw law was meant to isolate him. Instead, it exposed the fractures in colonial society. The letters. During this time, Ned Kelly dictated his most famous letters. Long, angry documents explaining his life and his grievances. He accused police of corruption, of brutality, of targeting the poor while protecting the powerful. The letters were meant to be read publicly, to explain why he refused to submit. Authorities attempted to suppress them, but the damage was done. People were listening. Why the law backfired. Declaring Ned Kelly an outlaw was meant to end the problem quickly. Instead, it turned him into a cause. The law gave him no chance at redemption, so the public filled that space with myth. He became a symbol of defiance, of resistance against a system seen as unjust. The more force the government used, the more his legend grew. A dead end by design. The outlaw declaration created a trap. If Ned surrendered, he would likely be killed. If he resisted, he confirmed the government's narrative. There was no scenario where he walked free. The law had closed every door, leaving only one option: to control the ending. The road to Glen Rowan. By 1880, Ned Kelly understood the truth. The outlaw law meant he would never be allowed to fade away. The hunt would continue until he was dead, so he stopped running. He began planning a confrontation so large, so public, it could not be ignored. A final act that would force the colony to look directly at what it had created. That plan would lead to Glen Rowan, and to the moment when legend replaced man forever. Legacy of the outlaw law. The declaration that made Ned Kelly an outlaw did not erase him. It preserved him. It ensured he would be remembered not just as a criminal, but as a challenge to authority. Even today, the outlaw law is remembered less for maintaining order and more for creating one of Australia's most enduring legends. When the law declares a man beyond protection, it expects silence. What it doesn't expect is for that man to speak louder than ever. They declared Ned Kelly an outlaw, and in doing so, they helped create a legend.